And I do first want to just comment that this shirt in no way endorses or represents my feelings on some of the conversation yesterday in the breakouts of a change in venue for future summits. Okay? So with that, happy to be here to chat with everybody today. As the slide says, my name is Michael. I'm a CS person. I kind of joke that I've been in customer success my whole career. I just didn't really realize it. So 25 years in enterprise B2B, post-sales leadership roles. The first half of that in professional services titles along the way. The last decade plus with customer success leadership titles, specifically in the cybersecurity and operations space for things. We're going to chat today about monetizing your post-sales efforts. And part of that, you started to hear themes already from Dave and David around why this is important. What we will talk about, this is just kind of our brief agenda, we'll touch a little bit on just the problem and solution. What are we hearing? What are we seeing? What symptoms are you probably seeing? We're then going to cover some of the details, a little bit of how you can go about looking at this, right? Then we're going to focus, I will touch on a non-monetization monetization solution for you, which harkens back to, again, a few themes you've heard together. We'll then put it all together with things. But before we get started with that, I do want to take a little bit of a poll. For those in the audience, here's our quick poll. Number one, we're going to do by show of hands. Are you currently monetizing your post-sales offers today? Okay, a few hands popping up. Excellent. That whole row put their hands up. That's the row you want to be in. B, are you getting asked to monetize your efforts to help improve your numbers? Okay, you're all hiding in the back of the room. That's good. C, are you thinking of monetizing so you can show what your post-sales teams can do? A few more. Okay, process of elimination. That means the rest of you are going to raise your hands for D. That sales owns everything. I'm CSMs. I don't sell anything. I don't want nothing to do with this. Okay, that's not as many people. There's those who didn't raise your hands. That's okay. We'll get to you too. Thank you for that. Gives me a little bit of context. We're kind of split equally across the entire room with things. So let's start with the problem. Part of the problem is we notoriously in CS have a leaky bucket, right? Sometimes we call that churn. Sometimes we call it maybe our metrics are declining. But really what's driving some of that? And it's a problem both for us as a company as well as for us as a customer-facing organization. Number one, usually the symptoms you're starting to see and hear from where you get pushed for this is, well, my margins are low. We've already heard margins a few times this morning. Maybe you're getting rejected for that headcount, especially now as we're coming up on budget season. We don't want to add cost to that area because that's going to increase our costs of delivery, costs of services there. Maybe the metrics are a little bit below target. Really, the CS teams historically have ended up being a casualty of our own companies. And what do I mean by that? We're really at the mercy of our products, our existing solutions, maybe our marketing teams, maybe our legal and finance teams, where a lot of times there's something we need to do to get the customer to fully adopt the product and leverage it as best they can. And what was the answer? We're going to put people on it to fill that gap. The product doesn't do X, but don't worry, the CSM can go handle this. I'm already seeing head nods going on all throughout the audience here. Maybe, here's another technique or problem that we ran into. Oh, it's customer facing. CS, you'll go do that because you know what to go do. You talk customer. And we get given that job and we like to say yes, we like to help people, so we do it. And before we know it, our teams are overwhelmed. We become that casualty to fill in those gaps. And as a result, it's going to start showing up in our margins. The real solution we're going to talk about here is how do we monetize some of these post-sale offers? The real sad part is we're already doing all that hard work today. We're doing efforts for the customer. We're adding value for them. We might even be filling those gaps. We should be taking advantage of it. And the real themes you're going to hear me talk about are, number one, be intentional with what you're doing here. Identify specifically what the solution is, how we're going to do it, fit those needs for it, and David said it quite eloquently, right? Be a bit of a bridge builder. We're going to need to really get out of our CS comfort zone and work cross-functionally to put these types of offers and monetize things together effectively. Now, why we would go do this is the last two numbers in the corner up there, the 2% and the 10%. Study by TSIA, I can't remember exactly which year recently it came out with, I don't know, it was 23 or probably 22 or 23 numbers. indicated that companies that monetize their post-sale offers, they see retention on average 2% higher. They see their net retention percentage 10% higher. So it's driving not just the deals you monetize, but it's driving overall recurring revenue in those SaaS organizations. So the first step, because I said there's some tactical things that you can do no matter where you answered on that spectrum before. The first one is doing a pretty healthy self-assessment of where are you. Know yourself. The number one bullet that's out there, and again, you're probably starting to see a theme, understand your financials, understand your P&L. What are the things that are hitting you? What is the CS story coming across as? I'm a money-losing organization. Well, CS 5.0 that we're up to now, right? That may not be a good thing. How do we get around that? The other part is know your company. Know both, as CS leaders, we probably all have somewhere that chart of how mature do I really think my group is? What team do I really leverage with that? What is my team capable of? What are my strengths as a group to be able to put together? You also have to be a little bit honest about where your product is. Where are the gaps that I have within my product set? And whether you're a single standalone product or maybe a platform with modules that add on and have different items, where are the pieces where that product is failing to meet the customer's needs? And most notoriously, our CSM teams are now filling that gap in to go do those types of things. And that's really, we've all heard of product market fit. No one ever really talks of the service market fit or the solution market fit. What are the other things that we need to be doing as part of the whole product? If you're a Jeffrey Moore fan out there, right? He didn't actually even quote that term I recently learned, which was quite upsetting to me. But how do you make sure that you've got the entire product set that's built together? And the final part is to know your customer. How do you really realize and know what they are? Not just your ICP. Hey, they meet my ideal customer. These are the types of customers that are most successful with our product and with our solutions. Here's what we want to go do. So what I want to talk to us a little bit now is a technique that's been, I've used successfully with teams over the years. I've had others start to use it as well, called What's Your Mandate? And really for your customers, think of your customers when they're going to do stuff. They're implicitly giving you a mandate. You may not have been paying attention to realize it. The mandate is what type of help do they want in adopting your solution and being successful at whatever their overall desired outcome is. And it's got a bit of a range. Maybe you have more of that do-it-yourself customer. They're at the bottom. They just want that support level. Give me guidance and help when I need it, answer my questions. I got it, I'll go run with it for those things. You may have the opposite, all the way up at the top. They don't necessarily maybe have the people to solve it. They don't have the expertise in-house. They're looking to us, the providers of our products, to say, how can you own that overall for me, right? Run the project, give me that guidance, tell me where I need to give input, really let me own it. Or it could be areas in between. Maybe they're looking for us just to be the thought leader. It's new space, especially those with AI products out there today. New space, I don't understand it, help guide me, help me make good decisions at my organization with your product set along the way. And there are some in the middle that say, you know what, I just need you to operate it, right? I'm gonna run the rules, you give me recommendations, I'll go, you may even do some execution on it. If you have a hands-on service type of delivery, give me something so that I can go take examples from it and be able to run with it. That mandate from your customer you probably haven't thought of yet, that will help you identify one step in what are the things that I can offer to them. The second part we're going to talk about is multiple hats. The second hat you're going to need to get into wearing, not just a CS leadership hat, is being an investigative journalist. The who, what, why, when, where, and how, if you ever took a basic journalism course, are the 5 or 6 key elements for a good story. Part of convincing the customer to buy and use and adopt whatever intangible type of service we may get, may not be a hard widget anymore. How do you identify that for them? You need to tell them that good story. So the first part in a little bit of the what is this spectrum, and as Dave is doing as well, I'll be sharing some of this material so you don't have to go crazy trying to identify it. This helps break down what's known as the services continuum. What are all the types of things that we can get paid for? And I'm probably realizing now that that type is way too small for you guys to all see that in the back. It's breaking down, are there things that we could be, what can we get paid for, whether it's paid for our support overall, paid for education in the middle, All of the brown items in the middle, that is your professional services. Things, whether it's paid for what we could do with our products, paid for what we know about our products, paid for what we know about the industry and domain from a consulting standpoint. Could be outsourcing, is that one, and then management consulting. This was put out by TSIA and their predecessor, TPSA, a long time ago. But I have to admit, it's one of the easiest ways to draw a spectrum of what are all the things I could do. So I'm starting to think about services. What are some of the things I could or should be choosing from? This gives you a list to start with. Now, it's not just the what. There's a whole bunch of other ones. What do they get? How do they buy it? Who decides how to buy it? Some of those we do within our ICP today. But more importantly, how do we deliver it? Who needs to deliver it? What are the skill sets and the resources I need for this? How long is this typically going to take? How do I tell that story to the customer so that I can come back with, and by the way, here's the price, here's the value, here's what you get out of it. So a lot of basic questions to come out. A best practices that actually steals from the product management community is putting this out into more of a solution summary. Take each offering that you're intending to build, create a 1 to 2 page definition of the who, what, where, when, why, basic English terms, no jargon. Use that to get all of your team aligned, and I mean all the team cross-functionally within your company aligned on what needs to happen, who needs to build what. Back to the question earlier, well, where do these CS people live in the future? They may not be technically CS people with a title. They may be the person in solution engineering or development engineering or a marketing person to put together that collective company-wide story on what this offering is that you're putting in there. Once you get that page together, you can now divide and conquer. You become a force multiplier as the CS leader, as the CS product leader, if you will, to be able to put out, this is what we can go accomplish as a team, building this offering together and going to market with it. Really putting a little bit of product management hat on, as the asterisk at the bottom says. So this is part of the who, what, where, when, why for it. And my clicker, there we go. Now, you put together a bunch of offers. Hey, we brainstorm as a team, we come up with a huge list. Okay, now what do we do about it? And the traditional model we've all taken is I'm going to give this list to sales, and they're going to go shotgun out and we had a couple examples last night of, I'm in an EBR, I go out there, here's the 85 things that I can do as a company for you. And we immediately turn the customer off. Why? Because again, we're not even thinking about it from the customer standpoint. We're just throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping to see what sticks. The real key to success here is being able to target, to get much more discreetly, to credibly come to a customer and say, here is the very explicit offering that will help you and your team achieve your goals and objectives for things. It's going to require us to categorize some stuff to really help separate, in a way, the sales story of the solution versus the delivery, which if you do that template before, you've already spelled out who's going to deliver what, how do you tell the story about it. And the net result for us is if we can target these solutions much more discreetly, we've got credibility with the customer, we retain trust, especially as post-sale leaders, and we don't have to worry about the, oh, I'm not a salesperson part. So how does this matrix type of approach for categorizing things work? Here's a basic one that takes the customer journey a little bit. Divvies it up along 3 basic stages: onboarding, adoption, and optimize. We're going to use the customer journey. Why? Because one of the easiest questions probably anyone in your organization that interacts with a customer is, they can probably determine pretty quickly where they are in the customer journey with you. Are they just getting onboarded? Maybe they've been around for a while, they're still adopting, or they're at that steady state they've been using for a while. Now you know what column to potentially look at. You can create rows then going down that identify what are those different types of offerings you may have come up with from that matrix before, that spectrum. This way you've now laid out, here's all the things we can do, and we've given you a very clear target to identify where you want to go. And by the way, this isn't ClientSuccess, I just stole their logo because it was handy to put little bullets somewhere. If you overlay also beyond that and get really organized, categorized by the mandate on the far left side, now if I know what the customer is looking for and expecting from us, I want help as a do-it-myselfer, I want you to own the whole thing, I'm at this stage in my customer life cycle because I'm X months into my contract with you and I've already onboarded and maybe I'm stuck in adoption. I've now triangulated down so that I know, pick which one, pick whichever cell is there. Those are the offerings that you should be targeting that customer with. Those are the offerings your post-sales teams or even your sales teams or even your CEO can go through and look at those 1 or 2, maybe 3 offerings and intelligently narrow it down. It's kind of like when we go to the eye doctor and they go, which looks clearer, A or B? Once you are narrowed down to 1 or 2 choices versus the 20 or 40 or 85, you have a much better shot at having a credible solution for the customer's problem that fits the model and mandate they've given you, how they want to work together. So you can come with an offer that is not out of left field, but is like, wow, that could really help me. Gains traction and credibility right away. So use the matrix to target it down. A real life example from a company that did, keep missing the button from this side. A real life example from a company that does both software and a little bit of hardware. They scoped it out like this. They brought in their branding for it to put up on their internal intranet site to guide their teams of what do I go for? Highlighted each one of, depending where they are in their life cycle approach, what's the type of offering to go with, led to prepackaged offerings, not just that description, but it would have all the materials that go with it. It's got my pre-formatted statement of work or agreement. It's got delivery materials that go with it. I have marketing materials that I can put that position in front and tell the story about what we could do for them, how we can fill that need that they have, as well as then monetizing some of the things, again, that we may already be doing, right? Premium support and mission critical support on one side. We're doing that today for customers. Are there ways to get monetization for it, to get paid for that work that we're doing? Health checks are a common one that are coming up now. How do I fit and give an assessment? Maybe not fully objectively as the vendor, right? But how do I give an assessment to an organization of how they're best using things to go through it? So how they're best using our solution, what they're doing within the space. So by using the matrix, it lets you target down for those pieces. Now, the one thing we haven't talked about yet is money. So if we talk to the, okay, I know what to do, I can do the who, what, where, when, why, but what about the how much? There certainly are different strategies that you can use to go figure out what's the right pricing model for where my solution is. Part of it depends on how differentiated it is and how customized or standard it's going to be. Is this something that is going to be done the same for all your customers? They're all, fitting the same mold enough to be able to go to market with it. Maybe it is something that is incredibly custom. Again, TSIA in a number of their books, this one specifically is from the Technology as a Services playbook that gives a lot of great checklists in the back. If you don't have that in your portfolio, that's a great book to have with what-if scenarios and techniques to go through things. But gives us a strategy for different ways that you could do pricing. Again, the more differentiated I might be for a service, maybe for those adoption services, something nobody else may be doing. Something that is a standard offer, differentiated, but really invokes the premium pricing. Maybe it's that premium support, the 24/7, 365 capabilities. Maybe it's bundling in support with some other type of ongoing service as a subscription. There's a lot of different models that you can take to figure out how do you get into what's the right price that the market will bear. And then, as always, I would say, play around with it. Do some A/B testing. See which segments of your customers would be more open to different pricing along the way. Part of that will be a little bit of experimentation. But if you've got the who, what, where, when, why behind it, you know the strategic and differentiated nature of that service offering that you're going with. You've got the ability to figure out, here's a strategy to go apply the pricing to it. So we've talked a lot about on our how we put together the story, how we identify it, maybe how much we should charge. That's all taking things that you're doing, you know how to do, maybe you want to do, and putting a structure around it to monetize that offer, to define that offer, and build it out cross-functionally to go. The one piece I said I'd add is a non-monetization monetization. Know your COGS. And this comes back to being a good, sensible business leader. You really need to understand your P&L and where your margins are coming from. And I've had this example in my role. They introduced me, right? I've been the VP of CS at 3 organizations, high growth organizations, 50, 60% growth a year. I've now started advising some other companies. I've had this now with 2 companies just in the last 3 months, where they say, oh, we need to monetize. We need to figure out how to get these offers to market. We need to improve our margins post-sales. Great. We come in and start looking at it, and they'll explain a problem to me. The problem was really they didn't know where they were spending their money. We would talk with, okay, why are your margins so bad? Where are you seeing that in your organization? And it turns out in their case, their CS team was doing a lot of stuff. Because again, everyone loves CS, it's customer facing, let's give it to CS. Right? So not only were they doing actual hands-on keyboard work at times for the customer, oh, we can format that data for you to make it easier to pull in and ingest. We can take care of putting a process together to start with that you use as a baseline. We can put together internal materials to help you tell the story of why you're using our solution to all the different lines of business and departments that have to adopt it. There are a lot of pieces in there they were already doing for customers that you can question, is this really needed as part of the delivery? There was also a lot of things they were doing outside of that. Hey, I got pulled into a pre-sales call for a whole bunch of things there. I got pulled in for partner enablement. We have a bunch of partners that do delivery, and they weren't good enough yet to deliver our solution. So we had our people lean in and shadow them and look over their shoulder and do things. By not understanding where their costs were, they had a margin problem. They were doing a lot of things that normally would not be part of your cost of goods sold or cost of service delivered, depending on what your CFO wants to call it. They were really focused on just solve the problem for the customer, throw a person at it. And by not knowing where it is, they were able to help sell by elaborating the story out, identifying where that was, and then putting some plans in place to fix their time tracking, their margin tracking, their decision-making even, on do we continue to do those things, help them recoup some dollars back into their fold, was able to get that correctly classified organizationally, and it really depends on, in a way, how integral that service work is to the product itself. And that'll help determine with your CFOs, if you're not friends with if you're not friends already with all the folks in finance, do so. That should be your first step this week or next week. Make sure you've got a good business partner there to help you understand what your financial story is from your team, so you know where you may need to adjust. Their final example in where they were doing the partner enablement was getting called out at the C-level to say, what is our strategy on enabling our partners? Who's responsible for it? And how do we fund that accordingly as a way? That's a way they impacted their margin without having to actually create a monetized offer. So make friends with finance and know your COGS intimately. Again, another theme, be a finance leader as part of this. So if we go to put all of these pieces together, what do we have? First of all, step 1, know what you're going to monetize. What do you do well? What maybe don't you do well? What do your products not do well? What are the gaps you're filling with your team today? That's your short list for what you want to monetize. I have clean up your finances there too, because that's another quick win you can get without having to move any mountains to go do that. Step 2 out of that is do that little inflection and reflection on things. Know your company, know your customer, know your team. Where are you strong and weak? What's the mandate the customer has given to you? What is your team capable of? What can they put together? Where do you need to partner with others within your organization in product, in marketing and engineering, maybe even legal and RevOps, to figure out how would I get this offering I want to build out to market? And then finally, start with what you're good at. Start with the things that you're already doing or that your team is already skilled on. Because again, why you're doing it, the customers are likely seeing some value from it. You can probably build on that. Use that template to be able to define the who, what, where, when, why. What are you missing to be able to expand that more at scale? And usually the things that have the highest value that we see from the customer success side, adoption services. Here, let me help you adopt faster. Yes, you could do it yourself. It's going to take you 60 days to get up on our product or 30 days. We have ways that we could jumpstart you to get you through that process a lot quicker. Maybe it's the premium support level. Customers need that 24/7 because they don't want to have downtime. It's critical to their business. How do you pull those pieces together? And really look for where you can have other insights, other data, other information that maybe yields out of your product set that helps them run their business better. All of those things are great services. Premium values can be applied to them because that data no one else has. That data will save that customer money tenfold if they could just get to it. And those are some of the things that you can unlock with it. So with that, I've got time for a couple of questions. We did this right. My contact info is there if you want to connect on LinkedIn. We've got a microphone here. So questions, who's got them? No one's got questions? That wasn't that good, folks. Come on. Seriously. Okay, well, if you do want to ask questions or have specific things you want to talk about with your organization, please feel free to find me. I'll be around here the rest of the week. And thank you for focusing on this. Own your finances. That's the biggest piece you're going to get to be successful at this. Thank you all.